Okay, to start with, we're going to load up our website here, and a number of you have probably looked at it already, probably saw it in the email, but we've been trying to kind of keep a running tally of what we know and what we, how to deal with it as it comes into us. If you're not aware of where this is at, you go to www.ag.ndsu.edu/ACCS, which stands for AgCom Computer Services.
Or you can go straight to the AgCom homepage and click on Computer Services.
Thank you, Becky. That's exactly where you can go. All right. So just to get started, when you get to this page, we've got it set up so the first thing you see front and center is our migration information. You don't have to go digging for it. Let's scroll down a little bit. Like I was saying, we've got it separated a little bit. We've got it separated by Outlook email, Outlook calendar, the tasks, the notes, OneDrive for Business, SharePoint, Skype for Business. We're going to touch on a couple of questions some of the folks from our county offices have had, and then maybe just give you an idea of where else to find some information. Before we start, just to reiterate, this migration is for everything that's related to what they call Office 365. It's not just the in-the-cloud software. It also affects your Outlook installed on your computer, your OneDrive files, the whole enchilada. And it's going to start March 10th, and it's going to continue to roll through till March 19th. So they've got over a week scheduled for this migration, so it's a big one. So to get started, we'll take a look at Outlook email, and we'll just kind of scroll through the web page here. And what we know right now is that your official email login, not the email address, but the login, is going to change. They're going to switch it, so it's firstname.lastname@ndus.edu. It's basically going to be your NDUS login. And this is the same login you use to get to PeopleSoft, to get to your pay stubs for those that are paid by NDSU, that type of thing. You will need to use your NDUS password. This is the password that changes every 90 days. And one of the questions we've had in the past, and we don't have this on the website yet, we will be adding this information, is at this point we believe they are not going to require you to change your password, so it's still going to be the same one you use for the rest of it at this time. It'll just change on its regular 90-day rotation instead. In regard to your email address will continue to be from ndsu.edu, and you will receive email to ndsu.edu, so that part isn't going to change at all. Moving on a little bit, just to talk about your email and the folders. For the most part, those should just automatically move over. There shouldn't be a lot of concern. However, we have had a couple of rare cases where people had folders that didn't look like they're going to move over. The easiest way to tell if you're going to have folders that are going to have trouble is to compare the folder list in your current Outlook software on your computer versus the web version. So the first thing we'll do is, for example, I'll open up my Outlook, and we'll actually throw the email up there. So I have inbox, clutter, sent items. Down here, I have a whole pile of extra stuff. For example, I have one called All Inclusive, and it's got pretty much everything I want in there. So now if I go to the web version of this, I'll go looking for the exact same thing. So I'll go under here, and there's my All Inclusive. I can go inside there and make sure all of my folders are the same. Everything you see that's in the cloud in the web version will transfer over, and this is how you tell. Now, something I should mention is when you're looking at the computer-based one, we'll switch back to that for a moment. Now, when you're looking through your folder list, a lot of people, what they do to expand a folder list is they'll double-click on it. So when I double-click on my deleted items, they all disappear. I double-click again, they show up again. In the web version, you can't do that. If I go here and I double-click on my deleted items, it doesn't expand or contract the list. I actually have to click on the little menu icon to the left. So if it's pointing up, that means it's expanded and everything it has in it is showing. If it's pointing down, it means that you're not seeing everything there. So just click on that so you can go ahead and see the rest of it. Was there a question that came in, Becky?
No,
okay.
I just asked if there were any.
Oh, okay.
And I'll type summaries kind of as we go.
Okay. So I'm going to close that up, and we'll just move on here a little bit. So now another question we've had is to do with contact lists. And a lot of people are concerned about this, and you should be. Not to panic anyone. There's no reason to panic. But if you have lists with addresses that are outside of the NDSU email system, we are not entirely sure exactly how this will affect them, and so in those cases, we recommend that you back up your contact lists. And the easiest way to back up your contact list is actually to go to our website, and I'll just scroll down here, and under the Preparing for Migration under Outlook, we actually have a link to backing up Outlook contacts. And if you follow this step by step, it will walk you through the entire process of backing up your contacts.
Can I give a very short testimonial to give you time to catch your breath?
Sure.
I followed that one, and I was honestly afraid I had done something wrong because it was so fast and easy. I went, okay, this can't be that simple, and it truly is. I wanted to test it by opening the file, and I could not open it. But the guys promised me as long as that file is there, my contacts are in it. And I'll be able to see them again when I re-upload it. But it is really quick and easy, so I encourage you to save those contacts if you even use that.
Thank you.
We have a question here.
Sure.
What if you want to have a folder show up on the web version? I can't see some of my folders when I log in at home.
That's a very good question. So what we found is, we'll open up this again. So if you have folders that show up on the left side in your Outlook client on your computer and they're not showing up in the web, we found that in most cases, and I don't have any local ones here, but just to use, I'll find something here for an example. We'll use, we'll create one. Okay, so if I have this folder, whatever it might be, and it's not showing up in the web, I can, in my client on my computer, I can click and drag this, and I can drop it someplace inside another folder that is on the web. So like my all-inclusive was on the web, I can drag and drop it in there, and it shows up inside of that folder. So you can drag them from one point to another to copy them into the web, so to speak.
To be honest, I think webmail is confusing, and sometimes they're just hiding under something else.
And it's very possible.
I have trouble finding them, too. Don't feel alone, Jeannie.
Something else we've found is sometimes when you first, and this might not apply here, but sometimes when you go into the web, especially if you don't use the web interface and you go looking for your folders, it can take a couple of minutes before they all load. So if you go in there right away, nothing shows up, don't panic. Just give it a few minutes. And then again, make sure to check those little drop-down arrows to make sure that every folder is being shown. Okay. One last thing with Outlook we probably want to just address a little bit is the autocomplete function. So a lot of us, when we're typing Outlook emails and you start to type an email address and the whole thing pops in there and it's really awesome, I'm going to say it's going to go away temporarily. Puts a little caveat in there. It's not going away permanently. What happens is when we switch over to the new system, since we're going to a new system and all the accounts are, according to that system, new, this can't follow us over. It won't work properly. So what will happen is as you start using your email once you've migrated, it'll start remembering those addresses again, and eventually it'll start populating and auto-completing as you type once again. It will come back. It's just got to learn it all over again. You guys have anything to add to that?
You were being pretty quiet.
Yeah. Where's the sharp stick? Let's
Such a
poke 'em.
good talker.
The other two things in Outlook that we haven't mentioned are calendar and tasks.
Those are coming up.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, there it is.
Yep, they're next on the list. So, yep, and again, just to reiterate before we move on to that, under the How to Prepare area, we have the link to the Outlook contacts and groups, how to back them up. We talk a little bit about the web version of Outlook, how to make sure that you're checking to see if all your folders are listed. And we also have another link to the help desk, the NDSU help desk page, in case they have some more information that's shown up that we aren't aware of yet. So it's good to check both pages just to make sure you get the latest. Now moving on to Outlook calendars and tasks. We just want to reiterate that appointments, tasks, and notes should all be migrating over. You shouldn't have any trouble there. You will want to make sure that you take note of any permissions or delegate access you have. And we've had some questions about the groupings. So some people have a whole bunch of calendars and they've grouped them. You want to explain that one a little bit, Blair?
I don't think I've got much experience in that area. Other than if you export them, everything should show up. Mm-hmm. If not, you may have to add those groups back in again because they're gone. They won't carry over as in regards to the settings and stuff.
Backing them up should be easy, though, right?
Yeah, it should be.
Do you guys have the directions on how to back up our groups?
Oh, you're trying to get me to talk here.
I was trying to get you to talk.
Right.
I could talk if you'd like.
Well, no, it's going to be the same thing like you do with your Outlook contacts. You go up to File, and then you go to Options. Excuse me. You go to Advanced, Export, and you do the same thing. You pick up the PST file as the file that you want, and then when you go next, you go down a list, and you actually select the calendars. You can only select one item at a time. You're going to have to do calendars separately, tasks separately, just like you do contacts separately, and go through the whole process. It's the same thing.
Cool. Thank you.
Can I stop talking now?
Yes. Sorry to put you on the spot. Blair asked, that was a great question Blair came up with the last webinar. I wanted to give him the chance to answer it again. I won't do that to you again, Blair.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
Did we get a question or?
Yes.
Okay.
And now I forgot what my question was going to be. But will the desktop Outlook work once the migration has taken place? When we actually go to our desktop, will that use the new password on our desktop client or what?
That is a great question, and it's something else we need to address. It's something we haven't added to the webpage yet. What is going to happen is they are going to actually have to recreate their Outlook account.
This is news.
Yeah. It's not as painful as it sounds because all the stuff will be in the cloud. All we have to do, there'll be a series of instructions. Actually, ITS put this on their page already. We just haven't followed suit quite yet. Basically, you go in. There'll be a small series of instructions. It's really easy to follow. Go in, delete one account, and then you'll just walk through as if you're setting it up again. It'll ask you a few questions. You use your new login and password to get into it, and then it'll connect up to the cloud and pull all your stuff back down. Just like when you get a new computer and we set you up on your email for the first time, same process.
So that process will be added to the website.
It will be added to the website.
Obviously, things are changing daily here, everybody, so we're trying to stay up to date, and like I said, that one was news to me, so we'll get that added. Another question here. Jim doesn't use webmail. I don't blame you, Jim. I simply use Outlook either from my office or when I log onto a Wi-Fi signal. How do I know if I will be able to access everything I can now? I think he's going to have to check in webmail just to make sure the folders and messages are there, right?
Unfortunately, it's the only way to tell what's actually in the cloud versus what's stored locally. Now, again, like I said, it's extremely rare to have something that isn't in the cloud. But, I mean, just to be absolutely sure, you really should log into the webmail. And we do have a link to where to log in on our website as well.
And, Jim, that should be easy for you because you log into SharePoint and things like that. A lot of people never log into Office 365. So I don't know about everybody else, but the easiest way for me to get there is to go to the NDSU homepage and under Online Services. Thank you. I couldn't remember. And click on email there. There's some URL, but I can never remember it. So click on email, and that takes you to, after you log in using your NDUS login, then it will take you to all of those Office 365 services. So you can check your calendar, your webmail, everything. And if it's there in webmail, like Jerry said, it should be there in your client after you now resync it.
To clarify, you'll use your NDSU credentials until the migration, and then it switches to NDUS for the Office 365.
That's true.
So for now, use NDSU until NDSU quits working, then use NDUS. As silly as that sounds.
Well, Jerry just made a good point because, like he said, this is going to be a week or a week and a half process. So I don't think they're going to tell us, okay, you've been moved now. So when you go in and your NDSU login doesn't work, if you have a problem, then just try your NDSU, NDUS, and hopefully it'll work.
Didn't they say something about when the migration process begins at 5 o'clock, no one will be able to use their email for at least for that night until the next day.
That's what they said. The problem was they didn't expand beyond that first night,
Right.
so we have no idea what that means right now.
And that just answered Ron Haugen's question. So will we be able to use our email after March 10th or what?
I intend to use it till it quits working, so I don't know if that answers anyone
But
else's
once
question.
it quits working, how do we know when it's working again?
When it quits working, I would try switch to the NDUS credentials in the web and just see if it gets you in.
Okay.
We don't have an answer for that one right now, so that's what I've been telling people. When you realize your email is not working, just try the other credentials in the web and see if it'll allow you to keep working in the web till everything's done.
Clear as mud, Ron?
We're happy to bring it to you. As we get more information, if we can get clarification from NDUS on that, we'll put it on the website. Right now, they've not been very forthcoming with that information, so I do apologize for that.
Last time we did this, it was only faculty and staff, and it took longer than a weekend, right?
Yeah, it took like 3 days, and they asked us not to use our email in the meantime.
Yeah, and this time it's faculty, staff, students, everybody.
And additional services.
So we'll see.
Check back with the website. Like I said, I keep checking in with them to see if we get more info. I will definitely address that one if we can get the information.
While we're still talking about calendar, I think we skipped over something pretty quickly that maybe not everybody uses, but the permissions and delegates.
We're actually getting to that.
Okay.
We're on track. I like this. This is good. So
Mindy said right now she's not able to log into webmail. Will this be a problem? So maybe we ought to.
She might want
work
to
with her
contact one of
directly.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Mindy and Ward?
Mindy. I
Is it
forgot
Mindy
to do
Grailty?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Tell Mindy I'll get a hold of her after this if she's available, and we'll visit.
Okay, JW asked about the other email accounts that we manage with Outlook Client. Gmail, Yahoo, Cable One. Why is my only question.
We're not responsible for any other additional emails and systems that you put into the Outlook client. We're only responsible for the Outlook, the Exchange, Microsoft Exchange client and email. Anything that anybody else puts in there, whether it be Yahoo, Gmail, whatever, the responsibility is their own.
Okay. Amy, how about apps on cell phones? We had this question before. Is there anything we'll have to do to move those to the new system?
The apps on the cell phones, I suspect we'll have to treat the same way we treat the client on the computer. You'll have to disconnect it from the current account and then reset it up with the new credentials. And again, we're gonna keep adding information. ITS Help Desk has some information on phones right now. Strongly encourage you to go take a look at that. We put a link under the Outlook and the Outlook calendar. It takes you to the calendar and the Outlook information pages. There is some information on calendars or the phones there. But we plan on fleshing it out a little bit too, trying to especially focus on anything that might affect us particularly, rather than just as generically as they might have it. But
Okay, JW, I'm going to ask the guys to work separately with you, and let's focus on the Office 365 functions. Naeem asked, or he pointed out, he just tried to export the calendar and notes. However, he didn't get the finish and the password screens, like is in your demo, apparently.
might be a different version of Office he's running.
What are you running, Naeem?
Office from my computer. I follow the same steps to export contacts, and it happened the way you guys explained, but it didn't happen the same way. Well, the first steps were the same, but I didn't get the screen to finish those, exports.
In your not downloads. Yeah, downloads.
In the Office 365.
Did you get a PST file saved?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that when you follow the steps, you click on File and then Open and Export, and then export a file, and then PST. Then I selected Calendar, And then it went to replace duplicates. I just went with the default.
Yeah.
After that, I didn't get the finish screen or that password screen.
Okay, why don't one of you guys work separately with him too? That sounds a little suspicious. So we'll keep going on the general things, and we'll work one-on-one. What's this we stuff? I'm no help. The guys. We'll work
Becky's
one-on-one.
phone number is.
Yeah, right. I'm no help. Thanks for bringing that up, Naeem. Appreciate it. So we don't know if it stalled out in the middle of the process or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
There's
work
a
with you.
Window hiding behind another.
That would be
one.
my
That's what
guess,
I'm
yeah.
thinking.
Okay. Thanks, Naeem. We'll be back in touch with you.
Okay. Any more questions, Becky?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on.
Yes, Carmen says,
Oh, okay.
be afraid, John, Jerry, and Blair. Be very afraid. We all have you on speed dial.
I have an unlisted number.
You suddenly had phone problems this week.
Also, the email address that we're providing, ndsu.agtech, agtech, at ndsu.edu, that's going to all three of them. So if you email, whoever's not on the phone or most available can grab it quickly. So that's a good option also. Okay. I
Alrighty.
don't remember where we were, but
We're actually about to start talking about calendar permissions. We threw in the little jump about the groups and calendar since it's not on the website yet. So now we'll go back to what the website was talking about a little bit. We had mentioned appointments, tasks, and notes will migrate, but you need to know what your permissions are. And permissions are basically, it's the settings for your calendar on who can see what on your calendar. So by default, when you have a calendar set up, anyone else can see your calendar, but all they see is where your appointments are. It says busy. That's all they see. In order to allow them to see more than that, you have to give them additional permissions. And then there's different levels depending on what types of events they can tell. What we've done is we've linked to this page from the University of Tennessee, and this one actually walks you through the process of how to get into your calendar properties, from where to look all the way up to what the screen looks like. This is the type of screen you're going to see. And what you'll see listed in here, right here, you see it just says default and then free busy time, which is what your calendar will have if you've never modified it. But for example, I share my calendar with John and Blair and Becky, and so I'll have each one of them listed individually in here. I'll add each one of them and given them a permission level so they can see what my appointments actually are. That way we can kind of keep in touch and communicate a little better. My guess is most people have added somebody in there. What you want to do is go find this page, take a screenshot or two of the listings in there so you have that. When the migration takes place, this will zero back to default like this. You'll have to go back in and re-add your permissions. There really isn't a way for us to bring those permissions forward with us. And I'd also mentioned, let's see. Well, that isn't what I wanted to do. There we go. I'd also mentioned delegate access. If you don't know what delegate access is, it's just giving someone else access to act on your behalf with your email account or your calendar. If you've never used it, you probably don't need it.
now's not the time to start.
Yeah. But for those of you that know what it is and have been using it, you'll want to make sure that you know exactly who you've provided delegate access to or given it to, just because that will have to be recreated after the move.
I have a question here. What if you're still on Outlook 2013? Do you need to upgrade to 2016 before this?
Good question. You do not need to upgrade. Outlook 2013 will move across just as well as 2016. And a matter of fact, I wouldn't upgrade it right now anyway. I'd wait till after the migration. And if you were ever interested in moving to 2016, that would be a great time to do it right before you set up your account again, and we'd be happy to help you with that. Okay. If there's no other, is there any other questions about Outlook at all? No questions? Okay, just checking. All right, in that case, we'll move on to OneDrive for Business. Some people use this. Some people use this a lot. I'm looking at someone right now. And there's other people that kind of dabbled with it and haven't really tried it too much. So just here's what we know about OneDrive for Business so far. With some very limited exceptions, OneDrive, the files themselves should move over without any problem. I've been assured they're going to move over. Now, I had to say with some exceptions, and the reason for that is we've been notified by the help desk that if you have a very tiny amount of files in OneDrive, they may send you an email asking you to manually back those up. Now, I haven't actually heard of anybody receiving one of those emails, so I don't know if they're going to carry through with that or if they've just finally said we're going to copy everything. But just to warn you, if you have a very small selection of files, you may get asked to back those up yourself.
I was just curious if anybody who's on even uses OneDrive. I haven't found very many people.
Okay.
Sue does. I'm the guilty one. I was kind of a guinea pig and moved everything over, and I absolutely love it. But it's synced to my hard drive, but just to play it safe, I copied everything today to the external hard drive also, just to make sure. So if some of you who use OneDrive are paranoid like I am, you might want to still back up just to play it safe. OneNote. We have a question about OneNote. I don't think we've talked at all about that.
We haven't really talked about OneNote, no. What's the question?
Just, I'm kind of worried about everything that I have on OneNote.
Oh, okay. So I guess there's two ways to look at this, and it actually kind of merges into the SharePoint discussion coming up. But so OneNote itself, if you're using OneNote, are we talking online OneNote, or are we talking did they specify if it was client-based or computer-based or web-based?
Amelia said they use both.
Okay.
Burley County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Burley's. Yep, they're storing those files in their OneDrive. So if they copy all their files over from OneDrive, it will also be copied over. So they should be okay. Yep, I remember Amelia's OneNote files, so yep, they should be fine.
So they can actually tell where to store those OneNote folders. If you're using the OneNote program within the Office suite, it stores them under your My Documents. That's where the default location is. Yep. So anything you do there, it'll be on your hard drive.
They did, but she moved it. She changed the location to OneDrive because she wanted to share it with others. So they're sharing through Share in OneDrive.
Okay.
And so that would be in relation to that, especially in regards to Amelia's. If you're using OneNote and you're storing it on OneDrive to share to your entire department, you'll have to recreate those shares, but the files should be safe. So that's actually kind of segueing into what we were about to discuss on OneDrive. We're going to talk about sharing, where the files will move over, but your shares will no longer exist. And unfortunately, there is no real good way to actually record where all your shares are at. So basically, you got to go folder by folder and just manually record who you're sharing these items with. Or do like I'm going to do and cheat and let people tell me I used to share with them, and I'll share it with them again. But
the person they've been shared with, though, can look in OneDrive, and there's in the left navigation shared with me. So I would recommend you print out or screen capture or something that page. So down the road, I can say, hey, Elizabeth, I need that file again, or hey, Jerry, would you share that with me again? So Amelia's again asking, is there any way to back up? I assume you're still talking about OneNote, Amelia, to be safe. That could be backed up too, I assume. OneNote, just like everything else.
Yep. So I've got OneDrive up on the screen right now. And, so the OneNote files are just... What did I say?
OneDrive.
OneDrive.
You said OneNote.
Well, I said the OneNote files.
Oh, I see. Why did they name them so close together?
It used to be SkyDrive until they got sued by Sky News. So.
Okay.
So anyway, yes, the 1111 OneNote. So the OneNote files are just files stored in OneDrive, especially in your case, Amelia. So as long as you back up all your files, you can, because you know where the files are stored. There's a particular folder that they're in. All you have to do in OneDrive to back up your files is open your files like this, and you can actually go up right underneath the word files and click on the checkbox, and it'll click everything for you. Then you can go up to the top and go to download, and it will actually use your browser to download a zip file, and I'm actually going to cancel that because that's going to be kind of large. So it will be quite a large file, but you can download everything in OneDrive. Now, On the other hand, if you don't want to download everything, you're going to trust the system as everything's going to move over okay, but you just want to have a copy of your OneNote, then just, whoops, we'll do that. All you have to do is check next to whichever folder it is that you want to back up, and you can back up individual folders in the same process. Now, what Becky was talking about when we go back to talking about the shares, as the owner of these, if I shared any of these, it will tell me on the far right side in the column, it'll say sharing, and I can see which ones I have shared. So here's one that I'm sharing. And if I click on it, here's the people I'm sharing with, but I have to do it individually. So I'm sharing it with me, and I'm sharing it with John Fry. But I can't just have everything listed, so I have to one at a time write them down. Now, what Becky was saying is if someone has shared files with me, I can go to the left and click on Share with Me, and this will list everything other people have shared with me. The trouble is I'm not sure why that's there, but it doesn't really tell you who owns the document, so you still have to know who it was that shared it with you. But at least you can keep track of the files that had been shared with you, if that helps. Was there a question that came in?
Amelia said downloading those gives her an error. We might have to work with you separately, Amelia. So one of the guys will contact you back, okay? Thanks. If you have specific quirks like that, then it's going to need some one-on-one help. So.
Okay. Just getting back to the list, that is pretty much where we're sitting with OneDrive right now. Again, all the files are going to move over. The shares will not, so we got to make sure we know who we're sharing with or who are sharing with us, one or the other, however, whatever works best for you, I guess. And yes, you can back up your files. Now again, NDSU Help Desk has assured us that these files will move over. Becky looks a little dubious over there. I don't know.
Better safe than sorry. You don't want yours to be the one that gets corrupted and you come back to work and go, all of my files are gone. So better safe than sorry. If you can back up, I would say do it.
Any other questions about OneDrive at this point? Okay. Then we'll move on to SharePoint. Now SharePoint is, for those of you that have used it, it's a collaboration tool. You can get groups together. You can share files, all kinds of things. In some regards, this is going to work similar to OneDrive in terms of backing up your files. But one thing I want to say right off the bat with SharePoint is, unlike OneDrive, SharePoint will not be migrated automatically. Nothing in SharePoint will move over unless you manually do it yourself. And I don't shoot the messenger. I have no reason why their tool moves one and not the other. I think it's crazy, but yes. So anything you have stored in SharePoint, you are going to need to back up. This is absolutely necessary. The other thing we want to mention about SharePoint is if you like using your SharePoint site and you want to continue using it, you need to contact the NDSU Help Desk before the 10th of March and let them know you want them to create a new site in the university system Office 365 realm, because if they don't, you won't have a site to move your new data to. And the plan is, from what we've been told, is they're going to set up a new site in a new system. They're going to give you access to the old one temporarily so you can move that data over. Unfortunately, we don't know if they've got any particular easy-peasy way of doing it, so we're strongly recommending you just back up the whole enchilada to your computer or to a backup drive someplace, and then when this takes place, you know you've got your data, so if they don't have an easy way to do it, you can just take it back and push it back up yourself. And we'll have some additional information on that as the time gets closer and how you can manually do that. But it's going to be pretty similar to the way you pull it down.
And I know not everybody on the call uses SharePoint. In fact, we got a list of who we think is everybody in agriculture that is using SharePoint from ITS. So we're even making some personal contacts on that to make sure nobody loses their SharePoint content.
All right. So with SharePoint, now that we know or what we don't know, however you want to look at that, the things to do to prepare, like we said, is back up your files. And if you go to our website, There's actually a link here to a video that Sonia from our department created for us. She has a much better voice than I do at this, so it's easier to listen to it. Sitting here for an hour listening to me talk has got to drive you nuts. But yeah, so it walks you through the steps of locating your files, backing them up to the C drive. Now, something earlier I had mentioned when we talked about OneNote, when Amelia had asked about OneNote, is it kind of segues into here because SharePoint sites also maintain their own copy of OneNote, and they refer to it as a notebook. But I don't know about the other sites, but I know the one that we use. I actually use that heavily to document a number of processes we use in our own group in order, if for some reason I left and I had a successor come in, they don't have to start from scratch on how we do a lot of things. So we've got it all documented nice and neat. I want to make sure that moves over. So when we're doing the backups, and Sonia did a good job of this pointing it out as well, there is actually let me throw up OneNote or SharePoint here. There's a number of places to back up in SharePoint. So when I pop into my SharePoint site, what you'll need to do is go into your site content, and then anything with a yellow folder next to it can actually be downloaded in the same type of way that we did that for OneNote, or OneDrive rather, excuse me. So you would click on one of the folders, and it would basically show you, there we go, a little pokey. It basically brings you to the same type of interface you had in OneDrive. You click on this, highlights everything, and you can click on download at the top and download all your files. The reason that we actually had you going to, make this guy disappear. The reason I had you going to the site content is because there's one other folder that you want to download, especially if you've used the notebook, and that's the one called Site Assets. This one contains the notebook for the site. It can also contain the graphics you've used on the site if you've changed them and made custom graphics. So if I go in here, for example, at one point I had put the extension service logo up here and we were trying it out. So it stored it right here. Here's our notebook. This is where I've stored all of our processes and everything else. So backing up this folder also allows me to make sure that all of that is safe as well. And again, all of this is covered in that video, and it's not very long, and she did a great job on it, so it'll be very instructional. And then the last thing we want to talk about with SharePoint is, again, we're talking about those shares. Who did we share with? Who has our stuff? And this time, Becky came to the rescue and created a video for us explaining how to step-by-step go through and pull those shares, or find out who you're sharing with, rather. Anything you want to add about that?
It took us a while to find it, but then once we did want to create that video to share that with all of you so you can quickly and easily do that so you know who to go back and reshare with after the process.
Any questions on SharePoint? Okay, moving on. So just a quick rundown of Skype for Business. I mean, obviously we all use Skype for Business. It's a great tool. Unfortunately, the contacts, if you keep a list of contacts or if you've grouped contacts, we're going to lose that. And moving to the new system, we're not, as far as I know, it's not coming with us. Now, again, things could change. That this might be one of those surprises that, hey, we log in and holy cow, there they are. But we're planning for the worst. So if you have a contact list you can't afford to lose, we recommend that you open up Skype and take screenshots of those various lists and groups just to make sure you have a copy so that you can go back later and recreate those. One other thing that has been brought up is, and something most of us weren't aware of, is that Skype also has delegate access, much like how Outlook has delegate access. You can have people act as your delegate with your email. You can actually assign delegates for Skype so people can act on your behalf in Skype as well. I'm not really sure why, but then again, the people using it would be able to tell me more about it than I can. So again, if you are using those delegates or you have created delegate access for someone, just make sure that you remember that so that down the road that can be added back in. Any questions on Skype? Okay. In that case, we'll get down to our counties and our county support staff. We've had a couple questions about this so far with these folks, And one of the big ones was, what is going to happen to the email addresses for our non-NDSU paid folks? And we still have no answers definitively, other than we have been promised they will make it work. And I'm going to hold them to that promise, I guarantee you.
Well, the little tweak on that is, according to NDUS, actually here at NDSU, there are several people who work on campus. They don't get paid or benefited by NDSU. They have a temporary position. They also have an ID number, so they can have an NDSU email address. NDSU wants to convert those into what they call persons of interest. That will put them into the NDUS system with a number. And that's the reason why, I don't know why that changed or why they call them a person of interest, but they're supposed to be being transferred over.
Okay.
And so then after, just like anybody else, after the migration begins, after the 10th, I have to do some more homework on that, find out how they get their NDUS password, so that after the 10th, they can try to log into their computer or their email, they can access that. I will check that out.
Cool. And when you find out, let me know. We'll add it to the website so these folks are aware of what's going on.
How do they get the password?
Person of interest. Sounds like a TV show.
Sounds like a fish. It's a boy, you know. But,
all right. So while Blair is working out those details, and we'll get that on the website as soon as we can, we'll move on a little bit. We're going to talk about email forwarding. At this point, we only have a couple of counties that are actually using email forwarding in any shape or form. We have been told that there is a way to do it, and we're going to look into that a little more, but we'll probably just end up working individually with each of those county offices to make sure everything's working well for them. Not to worry, we're not going to leave you out in the cold. Was there a question, Becky? Okay.
you know, there were a few individuals on campus who forward their NDSU email to Gmail accounts and things like that. And so they would have to reset that up again.
Yep.
When they go through.
Yep. And we'll, again, as with everything else, as we find out more about this, we'll put it on the website so they can come reference it there and see if we can't get some step-by-step directions for them when the time comes. Thank you, Blair. And then last thing, counties using county-based email calendar OneDrive. Don't worry. If you're not currently using the NDSU-based stuff, this really won't affect you or shouldn't affect you at all. We haven't heard anything to the contrary. And, of all of us, you're probably sitting in the best position right now. You get to sit back and watch the show. So,
what about the generic email addresses?
Email aliases?
Aliases, thank you.
I had sent an email off to ITS Security that's being worked on. I have not heard back.
Because we do have that alias for every county office, for every REC. Myrna was asking about their alias.
Oh, good question.
Whatever.
That was forwarded to ITS Security to find out about that. I just have not heard.
Okay. Hopefully we'll have an answer soon on that, Myrna, and a lot of others.
More questions? Okay.
Says, thank you.
Oh, okay. I keep hearing the bubble thing. Okay. At this point, that's pretty much about what we know. Again, information kind of trickles in now and then. We kind of update our page as we can. So we really encourage you to keep visiting that webpage. There hasn't been a single day where it's been the same, so we're always adding something little to it. And if we come up with anything major, obviously we'll put out an email or something like that. Now, were we still planning on putting out an email tomorrow afternoon with any major updates and announcing the final webinar?
I think we better, just in case there's people out there who now are starting to panic. So we'll probably send out one more email to All Ag, although you guys are probably getting tired of them from me. And we will have one more webinar Wednesday morning at 10.
10, yep.
Okay, 10 Central Time. Yeah. So if you know of somebody else who wants to ask a question or whatever, in the meantime, try to use the ndsu.agtech, AGTECH, at ndsu.edu. Kelsey says, when you find out about Cass County's forwarding, please let them know. Yeah, Cass and Williams are kind of the question, so they'll work on that, Kelsey. Thanks. Any last questions? If you think of something later or have trouble as you follow the steps on the website, I really, really, really encourage you to try the website first instead of calling these guys directly, because they're really swamped right now. So the more we can each learn how to do this on our own, thanks to their good directions online, the better we'll all be and the more sanity we'll keep. So please try to follow the directions that they've done such a good job of getting online. If you come into troubles like Naeem did and some others did, then contact them. Any last thoughts from you guys? Any other questions? I think we've covered it. Thank you all very much for joining us today. And share the word that we'll do this again at 10 o'clock Wednesday if anybody else wants to join in.
Thank you.
Bye.